Good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and Vollmer, and today is all about problem solving. So that's going to be the main topic of this video, but it will be divided into 3 parts. So the first part is probably going to be a layout update. That's purely because the problem solving part of it sort of incorporates the update, and it's just so you're going to see the update in any case, so rather than try and be all cloak and dagger and try and hide it and do a big massive reveal kind of thing, I might as well just tell you as I go along. The second part is actually going to be to do with problem solving and how to deal with it if you have this particular issue, and that is to do with my Freightliner wagons, and basically the issues that I'm having with them. Also then there's going to be the third part, which is for Jenny Kirk really, but for anybody who might find it useful. I was watching her live stream yesterday, and she's also talking about she likes her brake van trains. So we're going to do a brake van train with a Class 37 with TTS sound and an upgraded speaker, because she was talking on her live stream yesterday about she wasn't happy with her TTS speaker that was in her 37. So I thought I'd give her a demo of my 37 sound with the Roads and Rails iPhone speaker single. So without further ado, let's just get on with the video. But I just wanted to say I hope you're all well. As for me, I am well actually, but the thing is I'm now off for 3 weeks, and who knows after 3 weeks where that's going to take us, but I don't want to really delve too deep into that kind of side because it's kind of a bit grim and depressing, to be honest. But what I did do is I did manage to get some supplies. So before we go to the update, I did buy some supplies from Wilko's, just to keep me going through these next few weeks. I haven't actually, the only thing I have touched, and I'll tell you shortly what I've touched on, is just the glue that I bought. So I just wanted to show you some of the other bits that I bought from Wilko's, and then we'll see how I'm going to be using them for the next few weeks. So this is my kind of big bag of stuff that I got from Wilko's. Now I managed to find, no I didn't buy this from Wilko's, this is just a piece of mount board that I had left over, which I just found yesterday, so I put it into this bag. I'm thinking I'm using this if I have time to do some work on the station. I might be doing some station signage and putting them and mounting them onto this piece of board, a cardboard, and then I have to make my own signage using this. So that's kind of what that's for. I just want to put that to one side so I don't lose it. So I managed to find a load of these little acrylic paints from Wilko's. I'm not really too sure how I'm going to use them all or whether I'll be using them all, but I just thought it'd be just something quite handy to have. Because I am planning to do some scenery work, but I'm not exactly sure what I'll be needing or what I'll be using. But rather than sort of not buy it and then realise I could have done with it and then not be able to complete the work, I just thought I'd have these. I think this is a nice little set just to sort of keep me entertained. I also bought some glue whilst I was there. This is the cheap stuff. I actually bought two tubes. Here's the other one. I used this one this morning, and I'll show you why I used that briefly on the update. So I'd also bought that. I also bought just some cheap brushes, and that's again just general arts and crafts. Whether or not I decide to make any buildings or anything like that, it's just stuff that I've got to hand that I can use. Actually, that isn't actually railway related. Well, I suppose it is railway related, it's AAA batteries, but that's mainly for my remote for my TV, so I can watch the YouTube via my smart TV. But lastly, I bought a couple of packs. I'm not sure whether I needed a couple of packs, whether I need more. Basically, I've got some white card, and this is again from Wilko's A3. It's got 8 sheets per pack, and I think it's relatively cheap. I think it's like £1.75 each or something like that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be needing them or using them, or if I am, but I just wanted to have them to hand in case. Again, it's one of those things that you get kind of thinking that I could have done them with having the card if I, and do this project if I had the card. So at least I've got it. So it's kind of one of those, it's kind of like an emergency thing. Because I can't go to my local arts shop because they're all closed down. Obviously, as many shops are closed down. So trying to get supplies, you kind of have to sort of plan a little bit in advance with what you might need and what you might do, and try and hopefully have all the correct tools and everything that you need for when you actually need to do it. So that's kind of what it was really. I just kind of bought this stuff kind of like as kind of preparation, but whether or not I'll actually be needing all of it, I don't really know. But at least I know that I've got supplies here that I could be muddling through for over the next few weeks or so, should I need them. So that's all going to go. So Wilko's is a good place to go just to sort of get your odd bits and pieces, your arts and crafts and supply bits and all the rest of it. So I did that whilst I was at work. So I had a lunch break, so I was quite lucky, and that I managed to go to Wilko's during my break. And because the bus station's actually at the shopping centre, then all the shops that are open are there. So luckily Wilko's was one of them. I did actually ask them whether or not there was any restrictions, but they said no, there wasn't, because I thought they might be sort of saying, well, you can only buy certain items, but luckily I managed to get everything that I wanted from there, so that's pretty cool. So on with the update for the layout, and to most people this will look exactly the same, and you're probably thinking to yourselves, what am I actually looking at? The first thing to look at is the topic of the main conversation of today for our problem solving is the Class 66 in the background with the raker wagons that it's got behind it. That is going to be the problem solving topic. But before we get to that, we'll get on with the update, like I said, and the main update is, well, not the main, but one of the updates is here, the main terminal itself. And that has been completely relayed. And the reason for relaying the track is actually I've had to get a bit creative because I wanted to complete the extension. And the problem that I had is obviously now with things being the way they are, supplies are a bit in short supply. Trying to get hold of them and trying to get hold of bits and pieces can be a bit problematic. So I was trying to make do with what I had, and basically for the extension, there was what I'd done with relaying the container terminal was, if I just zoom you in a touch, is I relayed the container terminal because of these 2 points, that one and that one. It is mainly to do with that one, but the problem being is by taking out the point that was originally there, which was, I had 2 right hand points, one just on the back there where that straight piece of track is, and one here where this freeway point is, and I wanted to reuse those right hand points elsewhere. And I had this freeway point knocking about, and I thought, well, let me see if I could reuse that and then make the most out of all the points that I have. And that's what I've been doing. Basically, I've reused the 2 right hand points elsewhere, which I'll show you, which is the whole reason for relaying the track at the container terminal. However, that being said, it actually runs better than what it did before, and it actually the track plan is pretty much identical, barring the 2 points, or the points that I actually readjusted. So it's only really this section here, in the middle between here and down there, that's really changed, and all the rest of it is pretty much as is. So the bulk of the work has been basically, like I've just touched upon, it's all to do really with track laying and track configuration, and trying to make the most out of all the points that I have. So we're now at the triangle, which is actually probably one of my favourite bits of the layout. I really do like this bit, just because I just like the fact that they just go off in different directions. And one of the things I've done is one of those right hand points is just there, and that was basically to link that this side, which I'll show you, back onto the main line going the other way. So that's one of the things I've done. So again, all of this has had to be relayed once again. So another thing I've done is I've now added an extension bit piece here, which is this bit here, which is only about, I think it's about 3 inches extra from what I had before. It's not quite 4 feet, it's just under 4 feet. And the reason is to basically get this curve to come around here because it's all very tight. And this is basically the subject of the video, the main crux of the video, is that obviously, essentially, it's kind of, this layout's been sort of put into a main living space. So I can't have the expanse of a nice free-flowing layout with free-flowing curves where the trains can sort of like relax going around the curves and it all looks very nice. Unfortunately, with the restrictions that I have, the curves tend to be very tight, and then it goes from one curve into another. So that's what that does. Now if I take you sort of further into it, you'll see that this is the end of the board. Now the other right hand point that I took from the container terminal is here. So obviously that now explains why I've had to rejig the container terminal, make the most of it. This section of track will go off to the fiddle yard. So that's what's going to happen there. And then what I've done is I rejigged the track plan, so now I can have 2 tracks going all the way back round. And I'm thinking of putting a little mini country station on that bend, kind of a bit like Topley, which I really like. That piece of track right at the very back might possibly be a terminus track for the station, maybe a single car unit possibly. The glue I was using this morning was for my signal box. This is a signal box that originally came to me via Graham over at Lakeside. It's had various repaints over the years and I've had it, but it's still in use. It's just been repainted because those of you who saw it before, it was over at the other side of the layout, right at the back of the station being disused. So I've now brought it over here because I thought it would be useful over at this end of the layout, and I've had to just re-glue the windows in and just because I took them out while I was repainting the whole thing. So I've had to use the glue just to basically put the windows back in. So I think that will sit quite nicely over here, although I'm thinking that it may possibly go here. And I'm also thinking of doing a load of embankments here with card, which I've got card. I've got also old boxes, which I might be using, and I've got my glue gun. So, and I've got plenty of paper, newspaper. One of the things about being a bus driver is that we tend to have the metro paper put on our buses, and we take them out for obviously the passengers to pick up and help themselves. Now all the leftover stuff I've actually that hasn't gone, I've actually brought a load of newspapers back here, so I can use it as papier-mâché. So that's going to be what I'm going to be doing. So this is how it works, and this is how it goes back, and then it goes back to the layout. But like I said, I mean, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of work because I had to literally lift all the track, relay it, and also, like I said before, I had to add this extension here. So, welcome to part 2, take 3. I keep getting muddled up. So anyway, so we're on take 3, and it's part 2. And basically the layout, as you can see from the first part, is basically it's a load of curves, and all of these curves are quite tight. Now, I shouldn't complain because my layout's pretty big considering where it is, and I'm grateful for what I have. So, but obviously it has its constraints, and basically it runs on 607 and 609 curves, which are set track, Hornby set track, second and third radius. Now, obviously the third radius for most things is perfectly fine. But second radius, then we start getting into the realms of picking and choosing which locos, coaches, wagons will actually decide that they actually like to run on them. And this is an issue that I have with my Freightliner wagons. But I've managed to get around it, and so therefore this kind of video is almost aimed at those who may have these issues with these wagons. I did have on Beringen districts, I did have some wagons from Dappols, very similar, and they were exactly the same. They just really didn't like these tight curves. But obviously with the constraints that I have here, you know, I don't really have much of a choice, but I do like the wagons, but I don't run them very often because of the issues that I have with them. So let's get on with it and show you what the issues are. So these are my Dapol wagons in question. I'm not going to say what they are because I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, whether they're PFAs or KFAs or something like that. I can't remember. I know they're Dapol ones. The issues I have are with the couplings, and this is what's the bane of why I don't run them. It's that much. Like I said, I've got this one here, and I've got my class 70 in the background. Now, as you can see, if I push this coupling across, there isn't a huge amount of play in it. There's enough, but not too much. And what that means is it doesn't like tight curves. It does get around some of these tight curves via the 70, which is why it tends to run the 70, because the 70 has quite a bit of play on the coupling. However, if I take you to those two behind, which is my 57, if I zoom you out a bit, my 57 and the 66, you can't run these wagons with those two locos, which kind of almost defeats the object, which kind of means that you've always got to run it with a 70. And the reason being is that there's not enough play on the couplings on the wagons, and the 66 and the 57 have fixed couplings, which means that they are fixed directly to the bogie, so they will go in the direction of the bogie. They're not independent, so they're unlike the 70. So this means that wherever the bogie goes on the 66 and the 57, it's where the coupling's going to go, and there's no give in it because it's fixed. So therefore, if it becomes too tight a curve, it will just derail everything that's behind it. And you can't actually do anything about the 57 or the 66 with their fixed bogies. But you can do enough with the wagons to get them to negotiate around these tight curves. Now, like I said, if you've got third and fourth radius curves, then this really isn't really an issue for you guys. But I run with second radius curves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference between running these wagons, this set here, which is unmodified, with the 66 compared to the 66 that's right at the very back, which you can't really see with the other wagons which have been modified, and you'll see what the difference is. So here's one of the reasons for modifying the wagon, is as you can see here, it will go there, but that's as far as it's going to go, and there isn't really much in the way of play in order to get that to get round. And in order to do that, you have to sort of push it like that, and it's so tight you can actually feel the resistance when you put the bogie back on it, how tight it is. And this is another reason for, and this is actually on a second radius curve, So this is another reason for, and it will get round this curve, but it's very tight. So obviously by doing the modifications, you're alleviating it to make it easier for the wagons to get round, and then it doesn't derail what's behind it. So P&O lead oil Atlas is on its way. And it's made it round, but it's very, very tight, and you can see the bogie lifting off. But it will get round, but that's only because it's had a modification. If I stop it there, and I'll show you what the modification is I swapped out the tension lock couplings for one of these drawbars with the loop, and that seems to have helped. And like I said, I've added this extension because basically when I was doing this the first time round, and I'm going to put the tension lock couplings back on that so you can see it. This track here was too far over this way, so it made the corner even tighter, so I absolutely hated it. At the moment it seems to be behaving itself, but it's one of those that it'll probably do a few laps where it's behaving itself, and then it will all of a sudden derail. So I'm just going to put the tension lock couplings back onto those, and then you can see the difference that it makes. So I don't know if you can see that. So that's the drawbar that's currently on it. And at the moment, it seems to be behaving itself with the unmodified, except for the only change is putting this drawbar in instead of the standard tension lock couplings that you get with it. The problem is you don't have to keep them as a fixed rake, which is something that, again, I wasn't really particularly happy with. So I'm just going to swap them out so you can see. So if I just show you the underneath of these two wagons, this one here has been slackened off. As you can see, there's quite a lot of play, well, there's loads of play in that. That's because I undid the screw here. This is the one that Dapol originally give you, and as you can see, that's all you get. The problem is, you slacken this off too much, and I've actually put this the wrong way around, but you get the idea, is that if you slacken this too much, basically this starts to drop, and then it causes other problems, and then you get to points, and then the hook actually catches on the points. So there isn't really a suitable solution to this, but there is to get around these tight corners, which I will show you. But I'm going to demonstrate to you now. If you do it as out of the box, like standard Dapol giving it to you, this is what's going to happen to you. So just before this clip, and P&O lead Lloyd Atlas was on its way, it derailed, and this is as it comes out of the box, the standard couplings. I haven't done anything, but you'll see it now. It's just going to absolutely hate it. As you can see, it's already gone here. And this is why it might make it around, because it hasn't got the other two behind it, but as you can see, it's gone again. So that's the problem you're going to get with when you take it out of the box. If you buy these out of the box, you put them on a tight track straight away without no modifications, this is what will happen. Constantly, you'll just be getting constant derailments, and you'll be constantly just getting really agitated and anxious about it, and you just won't run them, and then you'd want to sell them. I was contemplating getting rid of them, to be honest, but now I've got around it. And like I said, it's like I said, it's not the wagon's fault or the Dapol's fault, because they are designed to use third and fourth radius curves, but in reality is we don't always have the space to run these free flowing curves. So like I said, this is what will happen. But also You can do some of the other modifications if you want, which is to use the drawbar and see if that works for you. But like I said, the reasons why I don't like using the drawbar system is that you've got to keep your rakes in formation. You can't separate them. So that's why I wanted to try and stick with the tension lock couplings. And the only way you're going to do it is by doing what I did with that 66, that rake there. So we're going to give that rake a little bit of a run, and then so you can see for yourself. So we're going to see if we can follow it round. Just hope I've set it up correctly. And then after you can follow it round, and so you can see the difference. So these are the modified versions. Try and see if we can follow it around the layout. And I've put on the Batman container wagons at the back of it just to sort of see the reaction towards it, see whether they were compatible as it comes round. Now it's on the outer loop at the moment. There you go, put some lights on. But I'll put it on the inner loop so you can see it on the inner loop as well working. So here it comes. Here comes the problem area. And we'll follow it around. And round it comes, and as you can see, it's going to take the inner loop, so which is the tighter one. And she's on the inner track. No problems. And I'll just let her do the crossover here, just so you can see. There she comes round. She's coming round once again. As you can see, she's on the inner track, well, the middle. Incidentally, the inner circuit is also 6.0, it's the same second radius curves. It's just they've been spaced out slightly differently. As you can see, as we go do the crossover, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop it, just so you can see that there isn't any sort of tricks or anything like that. So if I just take you to the middle section of the train, you can see that it's got the two tension lock couplings. So you can still separate them in the usual manner. So what have I done to sort of solve this problem without having to loosen the screws and dropping? Because the problem is when you use tension lock couplings, if you unslacken the screws, it will give it more play, but then it will drop. and then the hooks start catching on the points, and this is the problem that you get. So what I've done is, I'll show you, bear with me a minute. So what I've done, so just a quick recap, if you got this problem with these wagons on tight second radius curves and you want them to get round, firstly, and the easiest thing to do, is to try one of these and see whether that will help it. You can also try slackening off the screws, which is at the bottom here, and see whether or not that will help. But like I said, if you slacken too much, you'll get more play, but the tension lock coupling will drop, and then it will start catching on points. So again, that's something you can try and see if that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, and you want to do what I've done, and I'll show you what I've done. Basically, the first thing you do is get the right screwdriver. That's what you do. And you unscrew that, and you take that out. Now, this is where the problem lies. Basically, I don't know if you can, let me see if I can zoom you in even more. Yes, you can. You've got these two little lugs. You've got one there and one there. And that is what controls how far that this coupling goes, because that prevents it from going too far, and then it will just spring it back. But the easiest solution would be to take this off, which you can do. Luckily, that hasn't been too far. And as you can see, that's the little lugs. Now, the thing to do is to remove this completely, and you can put this on and just do that. The problem is it doesn't sit properly. It doesn't work, because I've tried it. So the way around it, and what I did, is basically, it's going to be a bit harsh, but you basically snip. Then you've got that piece. That's not all. The other thing that restricts the movement is, I'm not sure if you can see it. I can try and balance it on my finger. But you've got these. Oh, there you go. It's nicely in focus now. But you've got these, let me see. You've got this little lip here that raises. And again, that restricts the movement. So that will still stop it, because it won't go. Like I said, if I just try and turn it on its side, you can see that little lug. So you've got to remove those as well. So I'm just going to do it off camera, because that's probably the easiest way to do it. Probably heard something go pinging. And it's not the easiest thing, because there isn't much play in it. But basically, I don't know if I'll be able to show you. I've like taken those ends off. It's almost like I've butchered it. But believe me, it does work. As you can see, because that's what I've done with the other ones. Now you place that back in, because that gives you the spacer. That's now acting as a spacer. And then that goes back on there. Now additionally, what I did as well is I actually took the Dremel to this, and I actually Dremeled into this, and basically created a dip in it to allow this to not catch on this. Now I haven't tried it without it, but I guess we can see whether or not it works, or whether or not I'll need, because then I can show you whether or not you need to Dremel it. I mean, I did with the others. You don't really notice it, to be honest. So I'm just going to attach that back to that. So what I'll do is, just doing that without the Dremel in, we're going to see whether or not this works. because it looks like it will work even without the Dremel. So if that's the case, I won't even bother with the rest. I'll just do what I've done here. But you can see that it's got a lot more play in it. Get the right screwdriver again. I'm pretty certain that is, yeah, that's as tight as Dapper wanted it to go. So this should now work on the back of that. So we're going to test it now. I'm just going to put it on and attach it to the back of it and see what happens. So there's our test wagon at the back that I've just done. So I'm going to send it around and see whether or not it will work. Like I said, I put a slight dink on the ends of them with the Dremel on the others, but I haven't done it on this one, but I'm going to see. We're going to test it now and see whether or not you need to actually do it or not. But we'll see if it behaves itself. So we'll follow our little test wagons at the back here to see how far they get, see how far they get on. Our test wagons are negotiating the middle curve as it is at the moment. And our 66 is just coming through now. So we're looking for the last two. Here they are. Coming over the problem area, here's the crossing. And just follow that round. My apologies if you're getting a bit dizzy. And as you can see, it's now done. And here is my 66, which we're just going to stop her now. So there you go. So as you can see, that was a success. So you don't necessarily need to take the Dremel to it for those of you who are a bit too scared to take the Dremel to put a little dip on the end of it to make sure it gets around properly. But that simple modification that I've just done by removing that little bit there and then just trimming off the sides will give you enough play to be able to get around these tight second radius curves. And one of the reasons why I've added this second loop here, because before the point was over there down the end, is because I wanted to get a long train into the passing loop, which is what I've managed to do. So this is effectively like 10 coach, probably 10 coaches. So whereas before I didn't have enough length, so now I can actually have this train stored here at this kind of length and still be able to use the outside loop to be able to pass it without it encroaching on any points. So that's why I moved the point from over there to over here, just to get the extra length. So, welcome to part 3 of this long-winded video, and my apologies if it is a bit too much. This is basically, this part of the video is for Jenny Kirk really, and for anybody else who might be interested. Because I was watching her live stream yesterday, and during the live stream there was a conversation about sound. And she was saying that she wasn't particularly happy with the sound in her 37, and she felt it was something to do with the speaker. And this was to do with TTS Class 37. Now I actually have a Class 37 TTS sound, which is just over there on the track at the moment. You can't see it just yet. So I thought I'd give her a bit of a demo with my Class 37 TTS sound. And the speaker that's in that is an iPhone speaker, which I got off of eBay via Roads and Rails. Well, I should say the other way around. Roads and Rails via eBay. And also she was talking about doing clips with brake vans, because she loves brake van trains. And if I'm wrong and you say breakdown, I can also do the breakdown train. So if I got it wrong, Jenny, please let me know. And so I just thought I'd show you the 37 with the brake van train. And also I'm going to stick the 50 on it because, well, that's just my own personal pleasure, because that just sounds awesome. And since we were talking about sound, I think you should see what the difference is just by see the difference changing the speaker makes into locos, and see whether it was worth doing. But with the 50, that's just my own personal pleasure. That's just like my favourite sound. But like I said, we're going to do 2 brief clips, and we're going to show you exactly what the 37 sounds like, and then the same train but with the 50 attached to it, and then you can see what that sounds like. So enjoy. So this is 3741, and this is a blue one, as you can see, and I know that Jenny's a bit partial to blue, and so I do have a Dutch one also with sound TTS fitted in the same manner. So let's fire her up. Now before, I'll just quickly go through it, is before I used to have the tiny little round one that came with the chip, and that was absolutely rubbish. And this is what was recommended from Richard over at Roads and Rails, and it sounds great. It sounds much better than what it did before. Oh. Hang on a minute. Yeah, it might help if I actually had it facing the right direction. As you can hear, it's ready to go. So now we have the turn of my 50 Thunderer, and this is basically for my own pleasure. I just love the sound of this 50, and it's got the brake van on it, and I just wanted to demonstrate, since we were talking about sounds yesterday. This has got DCC coastal sound, or coastal DCC sound on it for the Class 50, and it's got a Zimmo speaker in it. So we're just going to give that a bit of a whirl. So let's get that. That's cool. All right, just make sure she's facing the right direction this time. Right, because I've made that mistake on my last one. So let's listen to her fire up. I warn you, she's loud. Right, she's just come around the bend, and I'm just going to crank her up so you can hear her in her full glory. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Enjoyed the video. My apologies if it was a bit long-winded. Like I said, it's covered quite a lot, and there'll be more to do because obviously there's still a lot more to do, and I've still got materials that I can use. So hopefully we're going to really crack on and get a lot more work done. So in the meantime, it's bye from Mildenhall and Vollmer, and I'll leave you with the glorious sounds of my Hoover 50008 Thunderer. Till next time, bye bye.